up, get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 42 Frame Skip, the number fun podcast on the internet. Yeah, sure, you could listen to those other big shows like former employees of the biggest game site in the world, but why do that when you could listen to people that are completely unqualified and just want to put their opinions on the internet for you to hear? Our parents didn't give us a whole lot of validation as children. We are here and exist just for your pleasure. Anyway, I am joined, as always, by the amazing Austin Eller.
What's up, Seth?
Not a whole lot, pal. What's up with you?
Oh, not too much.
Just out here looking for validation. And
Right.
the legendary George Cam Newton Loftus.
Woo! Higher draft pick.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
George-
going to get a higher draft
George-
pick. And we're not going to have Cam Newton. Yay!
Not going to have Cam Newton, huh?
Probably not. He was great the first 3 weeks and then fell off a cliff.
I don't know what that means.
He literally fell off a cliff and died.
Oh, no, you hate to see it.
No.
I do not follow football whatsoever. So,
You talked about validation a lot. Is everything okay?
everything's great. I would not think everything's okay.
I don't know. I want you to feel like the valedictorian. Like, I want you to feel super valedictated.
George, let me tell you something right now, bud. My life is as good as it's going to get. There's-
Seth, the Peaks Lake ass.
Rock bottom slake house.
Oh, I was doing it like it was a good thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, anyway, so what have you guys been up to? I haven't been on in a couple weeks. And how's the show been? How's everything? How's life?
Oh, it's been good. We've been holding it down, I suppose. Last week we took the week off, so
Oh, did you really? Did you not do a podcast last week?
yeah, we didn't do a show last week, so this is the first show in a couple weeks. But yeah, it's
So
been good. We missed you as always.
I miss being here. I have had a busy life lately. Things have kept me preoccupied, but you've been holding the throne for the king. I appreciate that. So, but the king is back and he's ready to
Keeping
rule
the
his
seat
kingdom.
warm.
Yeah, keeping the seat warm. That's right.
They should make a book or a movie or something about a king coming back. I feel like there's a good
Yeah,
title in there somewhere.
like the king is returning of.
Something like that, yeah.
Return of the Baron, maybe.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You guys were essentially, I don't know how much you follow Game of Thrones, but you were essentially Jaime Lannister after he killed the Mad King, who sat on the throne holding it for Robert Baratheon.
Yes.
Now, this is important in the lore of Game of Thrones because Jaime Lannister could have just claimed the throne for himself and become king at that point in time, but instead, he chose to hold the throne for Robert Baratheon, and thus was labeled the Kingslayer for many years to come.
So you're Robert Baratheon in this case?
Yes.
And then he had incestual relations with his sister. So
No, Robert Baratheon didn't. That was Jaime. But didn't Robert Baratheon, didn't he eat and drink himself to death?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Well, technically, Cersei poisoned his honeyed wine.
Sure,
on the
yeah.
hunting.
right.
Man, you are rock bottoming right now. If you're like, oh man, I am Robert Baratheon. What a way to go.
And I just want to make this clear. Jaime did have an incestuous relationship with his sister, but they were twins. Okay.
Okay, that conversation's over.
I hate everything about that. I hate literally everything about that.
No comment on that one for me.
If you lay with a clone of yourself, is it incest?
I mean, he makes a good
can't.
point. Like, I hate it, but he makes a good point. God.
All right. So let's jump into what we've been playing this past week, because we've all been caught up on how we've been doing in the world. George, how about you start, bud?
All right.
Send us on a journey.
All right. I've been really bad. I feel bad. I have a PlayStation 5. I haven't really turned it on. I've had such a Star Wars itch lately that I decided to look through my storage and finally unpack my PC, which I had out in San Francisco. Brought that home here, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to start the Old Republic. And so I started the Old Republic, and my computer immediately crashed. And I was like, well, that's not a great sign.
Well, no, That's not how that works.
I don't know PCs at all. Like the last time I was really into PC gaming, StarCraft Brood War had just come out. So that's the last game I remember like being really hyped for. So the screen got super zoomed in, and I just couldn't select anything on like the screen for the Old Republic. And I don't know PCs well enough to like close out of it. But then I was able to finally close out of it by hitting like the control bar. And then I was taking it back to my desktop, and then even my desktop was super zoomed in to the point where I couldn't shut down my computer without like doing a hard shutdown with like the power button.
That is a problem that I have not run into ever.
Yeah.
Well, I also just don't know what I'm doing. So I decided like, it's super zoomed in. What if I plug it into a bigger screen? So I plugged it into my TV, and then that was fine.
I was trying to troubleshoot this with George, and he was saying like the resolution was fine, like everything was fine. I've never heard of this problem before.
Yeah, I looked it up. I have a friend.
Simple solution and like such a backwoods like solution. It's zoomed in, so I'm just gonna increase the surface area. Let's go. Like,
I mean, you joke, but like it worked.
Yeah, no, like, it's amazing. Like, it's incredible.
So then I tried running the Old Republic again, and I got further, but then like there was a little screen flicker, and then the game crashed. And so I created. I did like 3 of the 5 pages to create a character, and then the screen flickered again. Then the game crashed, and then I was like, "Man, screw this. This sucks." So then I played Civ 5 for the next 9 hours until 5 o'clock in the morning.
But Civ 5 worked, but the Old Republic didn't, huh?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Super weird. But man, I was playing as Venice, which is a civilization where you can only have one city, but you can like create great merchants who go out and buy city-states. And so, oh man, I just got to the modern age. That game is still so great. I remember like drunkenly buying it when it was on sale in college on my MacBook Pro, which could barely run it. Those games are so good, man. They're just fantastic.
I never really played much of Civ. I think I have 5 and 6. I might have played a little bit of them, but I've never been super into strategy games. But one of these days, I need to give it a go.
6 is usually on sale on Switch for like $10, and I've actually played it on Switch, and it's super fun. I just like Civ 5 more because
That's what I've heard.
I dumped like 300 hours into Civ 5. Like I just got so used to those mechanics and whatnot.
Right.
You know what's amazing though, Austin, is that like there's 2 different types of strategy games, and they're vastly different, but they're in the same category. So like you got your Japanese strategy games, which is like Final Fantasy Tactics and Disgaea. And you got your Western strategy games, which is like Civ. And no one makes any distinction between the two, but they're almost completely
different.
They're completely different genres. Where like in JRPGs, you have Western RPGs and like Japanese RPGs. And to the strategy genre, it's just strategy games. And they're almost completely different games.
Well, because Japanese strategy games are more like grid-based, usually, like Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Or like you said, Tactics.
Is Mega Man Battle Network, would you guys count that as like a grid-based strategy game? Yeah. I think of it more as like a puzzle game almost. Just because there's like 3 lanes for you to like manipulate. So like, okay, we're getting into the minutia of games. But yeah, Civ 5, still awesome. And like I said, Civ 6, I played it on Switch. It runs really well on Switch. That's a great way to play it just because it's like the perfect, I'm going to lay on the couch and just mess around with this while a basketball game's on. Right. It's awesome.
Nice. Anything else?
I've built 3 Gundam models this week too. I think I just needed a break from video games.
What Gundam models did you build, bud? Tell me all about them.
First one I built was this nice little GM high grade, the Colony type from Gundam 0080.
You love to see it.
And then I built the GM command type from 0083, which is probably my favorite Gundam series because it's basically just Top Gun.
Yep, a lot of people love 0083.
And then I built this guy, the Gustav Karl from Gundam Unicorn. This is my least favorite kit I think I've ever built. It's not.
Now, is that a master grade or is it an ungraded 1/100?
No, it's just a super big high grade. The suits got progressively bigger in like Gundam UC until Gundam Unicorn, and then they start getting smaller again. But Seth, you're gonna appreciate this because a master grade I bought came in the mail today.
Okay, which one? Yes, dude, that's one of my favorite kits of all time.
Yeah, sorry, this is an audio podcast. This is the Burning Gundam from G Gundam. I'm excited because it's kind of a smaller kit. Like it looks relatively easy to build, so it's just going to be like a smooth. Oh, I'm going to listen to a podcast.
Yep.
about redrafting the 1997 NBA draft class for the next 2 hours and just
Now
bang this kid out.
that was my second kit I ever built, and it's a really good, fun kit. It's you can stand the kit on one leg. That's how good of balance it has.
Awesome.
The only problem with it is it's got the old Gunpla syndrome where there's not a whole lot of detail to fill in. So like even if you panel line it and whatnot, it doesn't look a whole lot better than if you leave it just straight out of the box. And I love customizing my Gundams. I like putting the stickers on and panel lining and clear coding.
I like doing that too, but I just don't have the space to do what I want to do. Like I'd love to throw like a matte finish on everything, but like I don't have an airbrush gun, like I just don't have the space for it. But yeah, I'm excited.
You also don't need an airbrush gun to get a good matte finish. You can use the Mr. Hobby little cans.
Oh yeah, but I wouldn't want to throw a matte finish on if I didn't like paint over like the nub marks and stuff like that,
That's true. All right, Austin, what about you? What's up with you, bud?
Not a whole lot. Just before we go into games I've been playing, I was just going to say I never got into Gundam. I never watched any Gundam at all or bought any of the kits, but I've really been kind of interested in getting into that whole series and just doing, models and stuff like that. I think it'd be really fun.
Are you are you asking where to start?
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. Because like I know there's like just tons and tons of anime series for Gundam. Is there like a good starting place?
Yeah, so you give your answer and then I'll give my answer because I think
it's such a hard question because the common like answer would be like start at the beginning, start with Universal Century and like, but that's there's so much in Universal Century. I would say like dip your toe in with like G Gundam or Gundam Wing or Gundam Seed because they're not connected to Universal Century at all. And like see if you're or maybe like even Gundam 00 is generally regarded as one of the best as well. And see if like you're into the whole thing.
Right.
And then if you do like that, if you are into it, go back and watch some of the Universal Century stuff because they have started remaking some of it with like Gundam the Origin and stuff like that and make it a little more digestible. And the stories are like extremely good and they're extremely political and like really great.
Right.
But I would start with one of the standalone series that's very highly regarded. Probably Gundam 00 because it gives you like I think it gives you like a good taste of what Universal Century and like what the overall Gundam picture is.
Right.
And then if you want something a little more wacky, a little more fun, check out my favorite series, which is G Gundam, because it's out of control.
It's just Dragon Ball Z with robots. Like that's what
Sure
that series is.
Bud.
And so it's like every 4 years they decide who gets to rule the world, like every country with a martial arts tournament. And so every country submits a Gundam as its representative.
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
there's like a regular season where you have to accumulate enough points and victories to then qualify for the playoffs, basically. And then it just becomes a straight up martial arts tournament between different countries.
Awesome. And the best part about it though is because this came out in
I think
the
that
early
was like
90s,
94, 95, yeah.
And it's got like the horrible early dub syndrome where like the dub is
atrocious.
But it breaks through the barrier into like incredible. So like it makes the main character look like this like super hard like I don't care like tropey anime character, but then when his master comes around, Master Asia, who is like like one of the main antagonists of the show, he's like, Master, like how could you have betrayed me? And then like there's these amazing scenes where they do like these like karate poses every time they see each other, and it's like G Gundam's like incredible. But it's not a good representation of what Gundam is as a whole. Because Gundam's like
that was one of the first ones that wasn't in the Universal Century.
Right.
And so it was like for their 20th or 15th anniversary or something, they made 3 series that had nothing to do with previous Gundams. And instead they just took the idea and saw, okay, how different can we make Gundam? How outside the box can we make Gundam? So there was like that, and then there was Gundam After War X, or Gundam X After War. And then that was basically just like an alternate history of the original Gundam series.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Gundam Wing, which was just, okay, how can we keep similar tropes, but just do things differently? And I'm actually rewatching Gundam Wing right now. And like, man, that show is bad, but I love it. It's so dramatic, and like the script is awful. It like so many things they say, it just sounds like they're just like making fun of other characters, but they're saying it completely earnestly. And it's really cool. I thought it was so cool when I was a kid, because I'm like, oh man, he's in Italy. Now he's in Luxembourg. oh, now he's like going to a base in Brazil. I was just like, oh, this is like global. And so like it was totally taking advantage of like the globalization that was happening like in the mid 90s. Like it was forward thinking in that regard, but then it just really slowed down in terms of like modern day sensibilities. I really like it a lot.
See, I hate Gundam Wing because the main character is so unlikable that it makes it like unwatchable for me.
He's such a jerk. He's such a jerk. I love him so much.
Yeah, like he's straight up like this girl invites him to his party and he's like, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't even do that. She invites him to her birthday party in like the first episode, and then he just like rips up the invitation in front of her and everyone at the school, and then he just like whispers into her ear, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, what?
Jesus.
And that's the main character of the show. It's just like so I can't watch it.
Yeah, but then she falls in love with him and then chases him for the next 48 episodes.
As happens generally in real life.
Yeah, when you play the most hard to get.
Yeah.
Be a piece of garbage and the women want you.
Yeah. But I would say try like Gundam 00 or even maybe Iron Blooded Orphans. I think Iron Blooded Orphans is a fantastic
That's the one
show.
I thought you were going to recommend. I thought for sure you were a big IBO fan.
I am.
There's
IBO.
a bunch on Hulu. Like I think Gundam 00 is on Hulu. Gundam Wing's on Hulu. Gundam Unicorn is on Hulu, but that's kind of like an epilogue almost, like all the UC stuff. And so like I think it's probably the best Gundam thing ever made, but it's not going to have as much meaning if you haven't watched the previous stuff. And don't tell anyone, but I've ripped everything Gundam I own on DVD onto a hard drive. so if you want to watch the older stuff, I could maybe
talk about it off air.
I can talk about it off air.
I'll meet you to back alley. You got the goods, I got the money.
I was just curious because it's something I've always been curious about but never ventured into. And like for Christmas I think I sent you guys, but my parents bought me that Lego, like the Stormtrooper bust.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as they are making a lot of these now, but sort of the more like adult oriented Lego kits that are a little more intense. And just like sitting there building that afternoon, I was like, man, I wish I had more stuff that I could do like this. So
these kits I built, I think the most expensive one was $25, but like the other two were like $11, and those are HG. And like the problem with the HG line is that it's been around for so long. Like I think they've made like 190 kits, and like they actually number them like 023 Gelgoog. And so that's the 23rd high grade they made.
Right,
so I would lean towards some of the later ones just because I think they're generally better made and like a little bit more interesting. But like a high grade should run you anywhere between like 10 to $15 really. And so like you can just dip your toe in, and all you need is like an X-Acto knife to cut it. And like you could even use, if you were really careful, like fingernail clippers to like cut them off the sprues, like the runners.
Right.
I would recommend spending the $20 on Amazon to get a Gunpla kit. Because it really helps having the side cutters.
See that, and also a lot of them, if you have eBay, like a lot of them have free shipping on eBay, and like that's like the storefront for like USA Gundam Store. Like that's what I've been doing lately.
Wow.
Yeah, dude,
fun. It's super fun though.
It's a great hobby, and like don't do what I did and jump right into the master grade line. And spend 50 hours trying to assemble the Wing Gundam, and like just wanting to like freak out because you can't read the directions.
They actually just made a new line called Entry Level, which are like I think $6, and like
wow,
and incredibly detailed. Like they just made like the main protagonist and antagonist for the original series because those are like probably the two most iconic suits, like the Zaku and the Gundam, and that's like $6. And so I think there's a site called like newtype.us, which is like a California run store.
Yeah.
And they just have so much inventory. They're like the only store in the States I see that has like the super weird random kits that like the bigger shops are just out of stock on. So I do recommend that website if you're not going to go on eBay.
It's one of those hobbies that you can put as much effort into it as you want. Like a lot of guys just buy the kits, snap them together, and put them on their shelf, and it's good to go, right?
That's what I do.
I like to put like a load of effort into mine, where like where like I'll get the master grade and I'll like panel line them with like these specific markers, and I'll whittle all the nub marks down, and I'll clear coat them, put the stickers. Like I spend a ton of time on my kits because I think it's just a fun hobby. I want to get as much out of it as possible, but like you don't have to put that into it, like you can just get a high grade, snap it together, put it on your shelf, and you're good to go.
Nice. Yeah. Well, at some point I'll get into it, but anyway, as for games I've been playing though,
we're doing a video game podcast.
10 minutes later. I've been playing more Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
So I'm
buddy.
about 17 hours in now, maybe, and I just completed Act 1. So
Did
I am
you
doing so much
explore?
side stuff.
Did you explore the entire first island?
Not all of it, but about, I'd say 75% so far.
I will give you a warning.
Mhm.
Actually, I don't think it matters because you finished Act 1. I cleared out all the bases on Island 1, and then as soon as I
Mhm.
finished Act 1, they all reset. So, to anyone who
Oh,
hasn't started yet, don't
interesting.
don't do that if you don't want to do it twice.
Yeah, I definitely cleared out a lot of those, so I guess I'm gonna have to do them again. But we'll see. But no, I still adore that game. I think it's, like I said last episode, had I played it last year, it would have easily been my game of the year.
Mhm.
It's just such a good game, and something about, like, for me, as I mentioned last episode, like I've really hardly touched the story, just kind of going around, like doing things I come across and exploring and
Upgrading your
taking
gear.
right, upgrading the gear. Like, I've spent so much time doing all that stuff, and I've like I said, I'm 17 hours in. I've only done 4 or 5 story missions. Like, I've hardly touched the story. So, not that I don't like the story, it's just there's so much other stuff I want to do that it's like
Yeah.
just drawing my attention everywhere. So,
You know what that game made me realize was that, like, because the game uses Ubisoft's formula for Assassin's Creed, right? There's no doubt
yes,
about that.
absolutely.
What it made me realize was that, like, because I thought for a long time I was just tired of like these basic open world Ubisoft games, but it made me realize that, like, I'm not tired of that genre. I'm
Mhm.
tired of Ubisoft because for some reason every Ubisoft game feels exactly the same to me. Like, Far Cry feels the same it did all the way back in Far Cry 3, and Assassin's Creed
Right.
still feels like a watered down version of like any open world RPG ever. Now I haven't played Valhalla yet, but I heard it had a lot of problems, so I'll play it when I feel more comfortable doing that. But
I have 25 hours into Valhalla, and I haven't touched that game. I checked my PlayStation. I haven't touched that game in 50 days. Because I
oh
do that
wow,
with every Ubisoft game where I go really hard for like a week and a half,
Yeah.
and then I take 3 months off, and then I go back, and it's an obsession. And then that's all I can think about. So I've got like 3 more weeks of winter until.
I just think they need to take a longer break, man. They took those 2 years where Assassin's Creed didn't come out, and it was kind of nice. And then Origins came out, and everyone was like, "Wow, it's amazing! It's so different!" Like, and like now they're doing this thing where like they're releasing it on a schedule again. And I understand it's a business, and everyone wants to like like make their money. But the thing they got to realize is that I really do think people are getting sick of like their formulas, because Far Cry, it's literally the same game. You go to all your towers, you unlock more of the map, and like you continue like a really bare bones story that
Well,
I don't know.
the other thing I was going to say too is it's not like Call of Duty where, you have like your 6-hour campaign and then multiplayer. This is like,
Yeah.
these are 50 to 60-hour long games that you're getting every single year. And I think to that, at least for me, for a while, it was just too much.
Yeah.
But I've taken a break from Ubisoft games for a while. I'm still not like necessarily ready to go back in. Like, I started Origins a few months back and I liked what I played, but I was not super drawn into it. But I will say, I hope Far Cry 6 is good. I've kind of skipped on Far Cry ever since 4, and I platinum 3 and 4. I love those games, but I just needed a break. Like you said, they're just the same. And so I'm hoping 6 is good because I love that series, but my gut feeling is it's just going to be the same stuff. So
Well, I came to Far Cry 3 late, and that is probably like one of my favorite games of all time. Like that
Oh,
game,
it's so
mine too.
good.
Mine
the
too.
game is fantastic. But I came to it late, and then I got a PlayStation 4, and then I grabbed Assassin's Creed 4, and I was really excited to jump into it. And then like one of the first missions was like, oh, you got to upgrade your smoke bomb pouch, go kill some lizards. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I literally just did this. And so
Right.
everyone has such high regard for Assassin's Creed 4, and I'm sure it's a great game, but I just couldn't get into it because I'm like, bro, I just did this. Like, I can't. I need a longer break. And then by the time I was ready, I just got into Origins or I got into something else.
Right.
I'm willing to make an exception for Far Cry just because it scratches the same part of my brain that Skyrim did.
Right. Yeah.
But Assassin's Creed, I think they could probably take 3 years between each game, and I think that's probably more in line with consumer, I guess, like stamina. I don't really know how to phrase it, but like every other year is like not enough time for how long those games take to beat. Because like, oh yeah, it took 120 hours, but I spread that 120 hours out over 8 months.
Yeah.
Right.
So then it doesn't
But
become
you finish one, and then like the next one's already almost out. It's
exactly,
like,
and you're like,
I can't.
God, like it just make smaller games that are 30 hours, and like this
I
would be
agree.
this would be fine.
Dude, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey was like so, and you don't normally hear me complaining about this, but I think in the conversation we're having, it is a giant problem.
Mm-hmm.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey was so big. Like,
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey put The Witcher 3 to shame, and The Witcher 3 was huge. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey was so big that when I was playing it and I stopped playing it, I was like, I am good for a while, you know? Like,
I
and then
100% of that
coming out.
game. I 100% of Odyssey, and I looked at my game clock, and it was like 155 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like
Jeez.
and like, man, I had so much fun, but also it's like, you know, Skyrim came out 8 years ago, and like I put 150 hours into that, you know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
so now I'm like, yeah, man, I'm ready for the next Skyrim because it's been 8 years since I put that much time into it.
That's why part of why I'm digging Tsushima though is it's not like the world itself is honestly not that big. Like it's pretty
Right.
medium sized, but there's just a lot to do and there's a lot to see. I feel like there's a lot of varying kind of landscapes and
Well, it's not just that though. The thing with Ghost of Tsushima is that everything you do is relevant to that character,
right.
and it moves the story forward in
Right.
some way. Whereas you're not just like collecting nonsense collectibles and whatnot. It's like you're going to these temples and getting like training and like meditating and doing your poems like a real samurai would.
Right.
So like it's not just like, oh, I gotta go help this lady kill some swamp rats. It's like,
well, it's that
we're
but
saving
also,
villagers and whatnot.
I mean, it's not like you're totally right, but I think it's even more than that too, where it's like, you know, when you're writing the haikus, you're getting like the most distilled truth about like how Jin is feeling, and like I know you have options for like each line, but like this is him putting into 17 syllables how he feels about this one subject, and like every time you go to like a hot spring, like you're seeing how beautiful this island is, and you're seeing like what you're fighting for, you know, like that's like motivation. Where like this is what I'm trying to preserve. So yeah, I totally agree that every side quest you do is just like slowly peeling back more layers and just like showing you like what's worth fighting for in that game.
Yeah.
And then also to your point, like you can put a place like a waypoint on your map, and you'll think like, oh man, I'm gonna go by horse because it's gonna take a while, and you're there I think more times than not less than half the amount of time you thought it would take. Like the island is not that big. It just looks big, and it's like it's just
and I love that.
Really well placed, like relative to Jin's size, I guess, is like what I'm trying to say. Like everything looks enormous, but it's also like, oh, that's because land masses are really big when you compare them to a person. But it's not like impossibly large. Like you're not going over the entire country of Greece. You're going over islands in like an archipelago. Like it's a little different.
Right. And getting there is enjoyable too. Like getting there is enjoyable, which is amazing because most games, like open world games, like you just want to quick travel everywhere, right? Yeah. But in Ghost of Tsushima, I found myself like actively wanting to ride my horse through these fields and get there. And I'm like, this is a good game, man. Like I really love Ghost of Tsushima.
It's not just the graphics too. The graphics are amazing. Like it like the fidelity of that game's incredible, but like the actual art direction of that game is jaw dropping. And like maybe that's the problem with Assassin's Creed is that like in trying to look realistic, it looks kind of bland. Mm-hmm. But like this looks like an artist made it, you know, and it's just like a pretty thing that it's a painting you can like literally walk through.
Yeah,
right.
Like, and that's rad, and that's interesting, and that's different, you know.
To Seth's point, like the horse riding, like I go by horseback everywhere instead of fast traveling because I just want to see, like I want to see what's in this world.
Yep. And
there doesn't need to be a quest per se if there's like some beautiful mountain or landscape or something somewhere. Like I just want to see it. So, and I don't know that a game has ever really made me feel that way, to be honest.
And the combat is so hype. Like every time I ride somewhere, like I'm hoping there's some Mongols like messing with somebody because I'll get on challenge them. I'm like, let's go, buddy. Yeah. Like it's me and you. Let's handle this like men. You know?
Yeah.
Really quickly back to the fast travel point, and then I've said my piece on it. I went by horseback, or I just like ran everywhere. Like when I first started the game, and then when I was like going for the platinum, that's when I started like fast traveling, just being like, oh, okay, well, I just want to like get this quest over with, and I've already been there, so I'll just do that. The fast traveling in that game just loads so fast. Like it's so impressive that if you ever do fast travel, it is
it's
miraculous.
Super fast.
And I don't understand how like they figured it out with a game like that but so many other games just falter in that
Well,
regard.
and I'm excited too because side note, but I figured this would be a fun thing to bring up. I somehow managed to buy a PS5 last week.
Woo!
So that's apparently going to be ready for pickup at Best Buy on Thursday. I did pick up Miles Morales and Demon Souls, so I'll be playing those. But naturally, part of the reason I wanted to go out and get it was because they unlocked the frame rate cap for Tsushima on PS5, so it plays at 60 frames.
Oh, nice.
And I'm super curious to see like the load times on the PS5 if they're already like almost non-existent. Like I can't even imagine. So I'm very excited to continue playing. But yeah, that's really it for me.
I haven't been on the show very often lately, so I've got a few games to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is, I've had some fire in my blood lately, gentlemen. Some just pure gasoline-fueled combustion engine fire, right? Because I am ready to buy my Camaro in the spring. I have the money put back, and I am just hyped. So I downloaded Forza Horizon 4 on my PC.
Man.
Hell yeah.
And
Dude.
this is the first time I've ever played a Forza game. This is the first Forza Horizon game I've played, and I am having so much fun playing this game.
It is so good.
It's super, super good. And I have some issues with it. Really, the only issue I have with it is there's level scaling for the AI, which I absolutely hate in video games. It was going to be my topic this week, but I changed it last second. But like the game controls super good. You can tell they were like, oh, we want to pull in Forza fans for the sim racing, but we also want to get some, like more casual arcade type mechanics in here. So that they make the game super fun. And I would say this is because I dipped my toe in the actual Forza. I'm enjoying this way more than the actual Forza.
Oh yeah.
The vehicle customization is amazing. It's super, super pretty game. I'm obviously playing on my PC because that's where you want to play it. But I'm having a blast with it. And
do you just use the arrow keys to steer?
No, I got a controller, which is I wanted to talk about this week because so for the longest time I've had this right now
blue Xbox controller.
Right, this looks like a blue Xbox controller. This is actually the Power A controller from Walmart. It's a $20 Power A controller, and I got to play PC games because I'm like, this is probably good enough, and it is. It's great, right? But this week, because everyone's been talking to me for years about the Xbox One controller and its haptic feedback and like how good everything is, so I went and bought this bad boy, an actual Xbox One controller from Walmart 2 days ago, and I plugged it in, and I've been playing on it, and let me tell you what, not impressed.
The thing is,
there's a little bit of vibration that triggers when you start accelerating in the car, and that's it. And I'm like, this is the big deal that everyone's talking to me about. Okay,
yeah, you should have put that money towards a PS5 controller. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I'm like, okay, like this. All right,
it's neat, but it's not. Yeah, it's not like the PS5, like where it'll block you from like pressing down the R2 or whatever. Like it's just a little vibration in the
and honestly, I think the Xbox One controller, I'm probably gonna get flack for this. I don't play like a whole lot of like new games on my Xbox One just because that was always like my entertainment box. 4K Blu-ray, I could like run hard drives with maybe various Japanese anime titles produced in the 70s and 80s off a hard drive on. I don't know.
Legally own.
I do legally own them. Yeah, no, they're all ripped from my DVD. I mean, allegedly. I think that controller is like best for like the emulated games, like the original Xbox games. Like it's the best version of the original Xbox controller. It's like probably the best version of the 360 controller, and so like I mean I mostly play older games on my Xbox One, so I know I'm biased, but like I play Star Wars Battlefront 2 3 or 4 times a week when I can't sleep. I'll just be out in the living room. And like, man, that game, like I play that game so much more now than I ever did in high school, which is impressive considering how much I played it in high school just because it feels so good in that controller. But again, like it's not utilizing any of the features that were next gen advertised when it came out.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
No, you're fine. I've been playing Forza Horizon. Like I said, really enjoying it. The game's amazing.
We need to play it, Seth. It's cross-play.
Okay.
So
sure.
At some point.
I'll smoke you, bud. I will smoke you. All right. I got an S2 rank Lamborghini Gallardo now. So check it. Check yourself. All right.
Okay.
I also don't like slowing down around turns, and I crash a lot.
So let's go back a couple sentences and restart that again then.
I'm so used to playing Need for Speed where I can literally just drift around 90-degree corners at Mach 20. But yeah, I'm having a blast with that. The other game I've been playing, of course, is Final Fantasy 14. Watson and our other buddy Sheldon started playing, so I've been running them through the beginner level dungeons and whatnot. Just, how I do. Literally the best tank in Final Fantasy 14 over here. Other than that, there was another game that I was playing. Persona 5 Royal. I've been playing Persona 5 Royal, and I finally, after a week, got past the intro. Because, dude, I'm telling you what, man. I really hope Atlas never does this again, where they release the main game and then they release an updated version of the main game with extra content. Because the intro to Persona 5 is, I'm not even joking, 5 hours long. Yeah. And I was playing through it and I'm like, I have done all this beat for beat already and I just don't care. Right. So I have seen like the new character, Kazumi, right? That's her name. They haven't introduced her in the game yet, but I've seen her. I've talked to her and whatnot. And I think she's a cool character. But as far as like the main story beats go, I'm just like struggling, man. And that's hard for me because I also know the first dungeon and the last 10% of the game are the best parts of the game. So like the whole middle section, I'm worried is just going to be me being like, like let's stop.
I gotta ask though, just because I don't play a lot of games where this is like I played 10 hours of Persona 4 back when it came out on Vita, and so like I'm not super familiar with the series. But like, are you making different decisions? Like, do you feel like you're playing it differently just to give yourself a break, or you're like, no, there's one true way to play this game. Like, there's the right decision.
There's decisions you can make, right? But the story is going to progress the same. Like, you make different decisions in how you live your day-to-day life. You can go with different confidants and whatnot. But, like, as far as, like, the overall story, it's going to progress the same.
Okay.
And that's the hard part, is because if the game is so plot-heavy, and I know I'm jumping in for a 100-hour adventure, and I'm in the first 5 hours, and I'm already like, I love this game so much, but I just have no desire to go through every single beat again. So, like, that's been rough. It's been a little disappointing. But, like, again, I love the game, and I love the combat so much, and, like, the gameplay loop of collecting the personas and evolving them and whatnot. It's just the actual, like, plot that I'm struggling with. And I think that the way to do this for Atlas should have been to just make this a $20 DLC pack.
That's what it should have been.
Yeah, and you add an extra semester at the end, and if you want to replay it, there's a lot more content to play through. But you can also start from your save at 20 hours. That's how they should have done it.
Because they even kind of did that with Persona 3 FES, because you could go in and choose the answer. Like, you could choose in the menu, like, the extra content that was in that game. So, I mean, I know there's scenes with Kasumi and stuff added in, like, throughout the base game now.
Yeah.
But I just wish, like you said, I agree. I wish there was a way to just jump straight to that new stuff, because truthfully, had there been a way to do that, I would have beaten it. But I mean, I was kind of in the same boat. I love that game, but it's just kind of hard to like replay 120-hour game.
Yeah, especially when you're at the very beginning and you know how much you have to do, and you're like, oh, I got it. And the new game plus is like non-existent. Like, you got to level all your confidence from 0, your personas from 0, your levels from 0. It's just like, cut me some slack, give me a bone here. Like, give me something to make this progression shorter. But they didn't. You have to do everything from square one again. So I'm still gonna do it. It's just like from the beginning, from the get-go, I haven't been enjoying myself as much as I thought I would. So we'll see how it turns out. But other than that, that's pretty much all I'm playing.
In that case, can you do me a favor and explain Final Fantasy 14? Why should I play Final Fantasy 14?
Well, it's a completely different genre.
Best MMO ever made.
Yeah, so, I know it's a different genre, but I'm saying if you don't want to do that, can you explain why I, as someone who's never played Final Fantasy 14, should care about Final Fantasy 14? Because from the outside, I think I want to care about it.
I'm confused as to what you're asking me, because like you could be asking me like why should I care about like any of the greatest games ever made?
Oh, okay.
Well, like I'm confused as to like how you're relating this to Persona 5 question.
Well, you said you didn't want to talk about that anymore, and so I thought we'd go back to another game you said you played. Did I miss here? Sorry.
No, I was just confused. So Final Fantasy 14 is just like tit for tat the best MMO ever created, and the story in Final Fantasy 4. Have you played a lot of JRPGs?
Not really. Like I kind of like Pokemon, and I played Final Fantasy X for the first time last year, and that's like one of my favorite games of all time now. Like the game is incredible. But
so like if you have any interest in the MMO genre, play Final Fantasy 14. Like I don't play World of Warcraft. I really don't care what anyone says. I put 10 years of my life into World of Warcraft, right? Like I played World of Warcraft at the highest level, at the casual level. I followed all the game's lore. World of Warcraft is not as good a game as Final Fantasy 14. The main reason it's not as good as a game is because the community in World of Warcraft is one of the most toxic communities on the entire internet. Like if you don't know exactly what you're doing in World of Warcraft, that community will cut you apart, and they will straight up like kick you from a group, even if it's your first time doing it. In Final Fantasy 14, like you can drop into a main like the game is how an MMO should be, right? It's how you imagine an MMO being when you think of how like being a role playing game on the internet would be fun. Like you drop into one of the main cities like Limsa Lominsa, and there's people there just chilling. They're playing music, like they're crafting, they're just posing, like taking pictures of their characters and whatnot. You go on like a dungeon, and you're like, "Hey guys, this is my first time," and someone will be like, "Oh, okay, here's all the boss mechanics typed out for you." And that's only the multiplayer aspect of the game. The plot of the game is something else entirely, which is like the greatest Final Fantasy plot ever created, which is saying something because Final Fantasy is known for their good plots, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But there's something really, really special about Final Fantasy 14, man. And I think it stems from like the gameplay loop of upgrading your character, the amazing community, like the way the developers interact with the fans is like super, super cool. So for instance, let me just, because it's the first thing that comes to my mind, right? Everyone like that plays this like a female character in the game, not everyone, but a lot of people that play a female character in the game, they want to dress their character like a hoe, like a massive hoe, right? They want to make, because they like how your character looks in an MMO is like such a big important part. So when they put the 2B outfit in the game, because there's a near automata crossover, the way the outfit was sculpted made your butt look smaller, and people like complained about it, and they were like, "Listen, like we want like a donk, we want a dump truck back there." And the developer in the next patch was like, "You got it.
Give me something me and my friends can play poker on, okay, guys?"
Like, and the developers were like, "You got it. Here you go," and they fixed it, right? So whenever there's criticism in the game, the developers take it to heart, and they're very serious about it. Like, because this game, Final Fantasy XIV, was crafted as an apology for how bad Final Fantasy XIV was originally. And I
remember that. That happened when I was in college, and I remember that game tanking.
Yeah.
And then I remember them being like, well, I guess a meteor is just about to hit this world. And they literally just blew up the world to start a new... Like, that's...
And it's like a part of the story in the game now.
Yeah. It's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And so I've always been curious about it, but like I've never really played an MMO, and like I tried to play the Old Republic, and
here's what I'll say is I had never had any interest in MMOs at all. I had never played an MMO. I played this game and I put 500 hours into it.
Okay. Is there... I know it's an old game, and people who are listening are probably in the know on Final Fantasy XIV, so I don't want to talk about it too much longer, but is there like a little bit for me to dip my toes into before making like a purchasing decision?
Massive free trial where you can literally put hundreds of hours into it without paying a dime.
Cool.
You can play all the way through the end of the first expansion.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And you actually the patches after that as well. Up until the third expansion, you can play in story through level 60. It's going to take you a really long time. I really recommend downloading the free trial and jumping into it because. And also, what I would recommend is if you want to know what the greatest story is in video game development history, watch the no-clip documentary on Final Fantasy XIV, because basically what happened was Square fired the entire management team, and they brought in Yoshi P, this guy, and he's like he's like a wizard essentially. Like he just took control. He started from the very bottom, got this team motivated, and he split the team in half to like develop the new game, A Realm Reborn, and update the game that's existing so that the people existing could enjoy their experience. And then the people that stayed with the game and like supported the game and until A Realm Reborn came out, they're all listed in the credits of the game.
Oh, that's rad. That's awesome.
Yeah, and like there's like a whole bunch of really cool stories. Like my favorite part of this story, and I'm sorry, Austin, I know we're dragging on here, but my favorite part of this story is like they crafted this setup, right? They were going to have the Garlean Empire invade the major cities, and they were going to, once they took control, this world was going to end. Everyone that was logged into the servers was going to see this cutscene, which is the intro to Realm Reborn. It's the cutscene. And the developers couldn't beat the players. The players formed like a phalanx in front of their cities, right? And the developers were like throwing these super high level monsters, but these players were like, not my city, bud. And they actively had to make new monsters during this event to try and fight the players. And this went on for like hours. The developers were like, we can't beat these guys, right? And then they formed a giant wall of these mounts called, I think they're called Gobus, which they're like these giant like forest giant things. And if you look online, you can see a picture of like these players all on their mounts, like standing in front of the city, like this is our city. Like you're staying out of it. And it's just such a cool story, man. Like
EVE Online probably has crazier stories, but that's people versus people. I've never heard of like a developer being like, "Oh God, what can we do to screw over these players? Like we need this for the story."
Yeah.
Also, it's amazing that they can do this, but what are we gonna do? That's incredible. All right, I'll watch that no clip. I like Danny a lot, so I'll check it out.
I think it's a 6-part series. The whole thing's incredible. Like just it almost makes you like well up seeing what these developers went through in order to please the community. So I think once you watch that, you understand like why Final Fantasy 14 is as good as it is, because the whole thing is about pleasing the fans. So, all right, let's move on to some news stories this week, shall we, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Where do we want to start? Austin, let's start with you.
Okay.
I actually out of the thing.
So, no, it's fine. We were just having a conversation in the document, and it worked out well. So,
yeah, perfect.
My story is about it's a report from Eurogamer, and let's see. So the headline is, "We'll never guess what studio is developing a new Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic game," which obviously this comes. What?
I bet I can guess.
Who?
Me.
You.
Oh, no. Okay. Yes. I can guess.
Jeff is making the new Knights of the Old Republic?
Is that why you weren't on last week? You were busy?
Yeah. I can guess that it's Ubisoft.
He was busy acquiring the Star Wars license.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I don't think it's Ubisoft.
Cool. Wasn't there... I linked the story in the Slack that it was Ubisoft developing a Star Wars game, right?
Yeah, Ubisoft is making a Star Wars game, yes. It's the Division team, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's not the new stuff. Yeah. So this is again on Eurogamer. They say the rumor comes via the BOB, the podcast. They say contributor Bespin Bulletin reports that a new installment of the fan favorite RPG is in development, adding it's not with EA, and we'll never guess what studio's taking on the project. And this is all a direct quote, I guess, from Bespin Bullet. It says, "Amongst my digging, I've heard there's a new Knights of the Old Republic project in development somewhere." And then he goes on to say, he or she goes on to say, "I talked to a couple of people, and they also found out that Jason Schreier said it's not with EA, and we'll never guess who the studio is that's making the game."
Naughty Dog.
That'd be wild.
Can you imagine?
No, it would be super rad. Remember a couple years ago how Sony Santa Monica was working on a space game, and then they canceled it when Destiny was revealed? I know it's not that. I think it's going to be, is it Oblivion?
Oh, like
Obsidian. Sorry.
The developers of
an Xbox exclusive Star Wars game?
Knights of the Old Republic 2. I don't know, but I think like Sony doing Spider-Man as like a second party, like that kind of changed things. And then just it being up in the air about whether or not like Bethesda games are coming out on multi-platform. Like,
I think there's a lot of interesting potential. I was listening to PS I Love You this week, and they brought up how Sony made that Sony Sony San Diego studio, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really know what they're working on.
Dude, no way. I refuse to believe that Sony captured a Star Wars exclusive title, especially as big as Knights of the Old Republic. No way.
I don't necessarily know. I mean, the thing is, if Bethesda is making an Indiana Jones game and that could potentially be an Xbox exclusive, it's like
Sony's like, all right.
I don't know, man.
All right, guys.
You're never gonna believe this.
All right, yeah, I got no rebuttal. No rebuttal.
I mean, truthfully, I don't know. I've never played Knights of the Old Republic. I've always wanted to. One of these days, I will, if it doesn't crash my PC or make me zoom in on my
You have an
desktop.
iPhone?
I have an Android.
It's on Android.
But I also have a Xbox One. Isn't it backwards compatible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. It's like $10. Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing: are they going to call it Knights of the Republic 3, or are they going to remake the first game? Because that's very interesting to me. Because if they call it Knights of the Republic 3, it immediately canonizes the first two games. If they remake it, then they have free roam to do whatever they want. And I'm not convinced that they want to do that because the High Republic. I haven't read the High Republic at all, but I imagine there's some sort of conflicting things with the Old Republic. There has to be, right?
I'm 10 chapters, 12 chapters into the High Republic, like the new book. Nothing I've seen so far disputes anything that happened in the first two Knights of the Republic games.
Are you liking the book?
Yeah, I am.
Timeline-wise, where is Knights of the Republic at?
2,000 years before Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
2,000 years? Okay. So that's a huge difference then, because High Republic is only 200 years before.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Huh.
But yeah, no, I'm like, was it Light of the Jedi is the book I'm reading?
Yeah.
It's good. I'm excited for this. I love Knights of the Republic 1. I'm pretty into Knights of the Republic 2. Those games are trash though. Playing those games is not fun.
Yeah.
Like the story's perfect. The worlds you can go to are perfect. But like, man, like the actual play mechanics. Well, it's like D&D like 3rd edition, man. Like it's not fun.
D&D 3rd edition is great. You bite your tongue.
George is over here saying this, and then weeks ago he said Mass Effect 1 doesn't need any upgrades.
Oh yeah. I
Come
remember
on,
that.
George. Jeez.
Hot take McGee over here.
Well, that was like an action game. Granted, I don't really like turn-based games that much, so like I know I'm already like starting at like kind of a bad faith place with like Knights of the Republic, in terms of playing it. But like that game is just like really boring to play.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Okay, but like think about what you actually do in that game.
Yeah, it's a turn-based RPG. You select your abilities and then they do them.
There's no way that they wouldn't have made an action game at the time that size with those decisions if they could. Like they absolutely would have. They did the turn-based thing for the same reason Fallout 3 did VATS, because the shooting wasn't good in Fallout 3. Like it was
That's
just
true.
it was a technological compromise.
I don't like what you're saying right now.
There's a reason Jade Empire wasn't like that, is all I'm saying. There's a reason the next game they made immediately after was not like it.
I don't like what you're saying. And it's borderline heresy.
Look, I love that game. I bet I played that game more than you. The game is not fun to play.
Whoa. Now that's a challenge.
Up there, pal.
It's on iPhone, man. I play that game all the time.
Up there, pal. I don't like what you're saying.
I don't think I like the cut of your jib there, Bob.
I don't know what we were talking about. Oh, the studio that's making the third one. I don't know. If it's not Ubisoft, you also praise be the executive that was like, yeah, we're not making you don't have the exclusive license anymore, EA.
Well, they do. So like I think the idea is that like the license ends in 2023.
Yeah.
Because it was a 10-year license, right? And so I think it's signed 2023, but they don't want to like wait until the license is over to go out and like secure a game. Like they want a game to come out the day that license ends. Like that's
such like an FU to EA. Like,
well, the more I think about it, I'm mad at EA. Like we should have had so many more great Star Wars games in the last 8 years.
Yeah,
like, we absolutely should have. And like they deleted, like, was it Uprising, like that mobile game that was like actually pretty fun to play. It was like a little Diablo you could play on your phone, which like wasn't perfect, but like it was fun.
They canceled Amy Hennig's Star Wars game.
They canceled that. They canceled, like, they brought it up to EA Vancouver, and then they canceled it again. They canceled, like they destroyed like one of the best studios in their entire stable, right? Like the Dead Space team. Like,
Yep.
why? Like all they've done is mess up. And like Battlefront 2, Austin, you've been playing that lately. That game's awesome.
They've really turned it around. Yeah,
that game's awesome now.
It's always going to have the stigma, though. Always. It's still. I'm pretty sure it's still the most downvoted comment on Reddit.
I believe it.
Probably.
When someone was like, "Yo, it takes like 200 hours to unlock a character," and they're like, "We want our players to have a sense of satisfaction and achievement," and they're like, "Yeah, that's not for us, Chief." Like,
all right, gun to your head right now, Austin. Who is the studio that we won't believe is making this game?
Sony San Diego, because I don't know who else to say.
All right, Seth, gun to your head. Who's making this game?
Ubisoft.
Okay.
I'm sticking to my guns. I think it all makes sense.
All right.
So they're making 2.
I'm going Obsidian.
No, I think it's the same game.
No, it's a different game from my understanding. Oh, I guess maybe you could be right. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I don't know.
With Ubisoft pedigree of making RPGs now, I think it makes sense. And like choice-based RPGs like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I haven't played Valhalla.
Sure, but I'm gonna cut your argument at the knees right now. I don't think that matters anymore because the Killzone team made Horizon, and because
they built different, bud. Guerrilla's built different.
Sure, but also like the Respawn went from Titanfall 2 to Apex to Jedi Fallen Order. Like, I don't think that like a specialty is as meaningful anymore. Like, I think ambition.
No, but it's a resume, right? I mean, like, it's like, hey, we have a good history of making these titles. We need something to spice it up. Maybe we're the ones that do it. I could see that being a bargaining chip when they come to Lucasfilm and they're like, hey, we're the guys to do it.
Sure. But I'm just saying, like, going from first-person shooters to third-person action games, like, I don't know, like, people have proven me wrong before. I didn't think Horizon was going to be any good. I'm like, well, they're leaving Killzone. That's a mistake. And, like, I was wrong. And then, like, Respawn, I just assumed they were making, like, a New Republic Commando game. And I was disappointed when they weren't. But, like, Fallen Order is really good. So, like, I'm not mad. But, I don't know. Like, I think people are more ambitious. And I think, like, there's just something about Star Wars, especially, like, I really liked Rise of Skywalker. I understand people have issues with it, but like, there's just like the perception that like the brand is damaged, and like, I assume every developer is thinking like, I can turn this ship around. Like, I can do it. Like, we are the people who can make the best Star Wars game yet. And so I have to assume that's like a driving force, just like that creative fire, you know?
Oh, for sure. If you find like a motivated team that has the time and resources to do it, like Jedi Fallen Order was a good game. But it was obviously rushed. Like there was significant issues with Jedi Fallen Order that made it seem rushed. And my hope is that if it's not EA, like EA is definitely working on Fallen Order 2, but I hope that story continues in some way because there's definitely a huge cliffhanger at the end of Fallen Order that needs to be resolved. So
I'm sure it will. Like, it doesn't really cost Disney anything, right?
Right. It's not like Disney has an unlimited bank account anyway.
It's a fair point.
Anyway. Let's dive into the next story here. I want to talk about GameStop stock.
Yeah, please.
I want to talk about it. Okay, so for those who are unaware, GameStop stock has jumped. In 1 month, it has tripled.
This December. Is from. Let's see. CNBC says it's risen 680% this month alone.
Yeah. So on December 31st, it was $18.84 a share. It is now, as of today, $150 a share. And I'm jumping into this conversation completely ignorant, just reading a few baseline things. Apparently, this is all artificially inflated stock. And people are jumping on board and making a ton of money. So apparently what happened was there is this subreddit called Wall Street Bets. And they all decided to buy GameStop stock, which jumped up the price. And then GameStop did this thing where they can halt trading, I guess. I don't understand how that works. And it's left me with a ton of confusion because essentially what these guys did was massively manipulate the stock market where they all bought stock, and because they all bought stock, it inflated it to insane amounts of money.
Dude, this would make sense if you played Animal Crossing. Like, this would all make sense if you played Animal Crossing.
Well, like, why are people not doing this constantly then? If there's like,
that's what I'm confused about. Is like, one, how does this even happen? And two, is this even legal? Like, is this
I don't know,
allowed?
So the subreddit Wall Street Bets has 2.5 million people that are subscribed to it. 346,000 people are online right now. That is a significant community if you want to make money, right? Like if 2.5, now let's assume that not everyone did, right? So let's assume a quarter of them did, right? I don't know. If they were all like, let's put all our money into this company's stock that's failing, shoot up the price so that all that stock gets inflated and then sell it, we're all going to quintuple our money? I'm like, what is our economy built on?
There was one article that said some guy invested like 58K in change and then cashed out at 11 million.
Yeah. What?
I really don't understand it. I was going to point out today too, apparently Elon Musk tweeted about the stocks at 4:00.
No, he didn't tweet out about the stocks. He tweeted out the word game stonk. Like, that was what he did.
Oh. Well, after he did that, the stocks the stocks jumped another 40%.
Screw that guy into oblivion. That guy's worthless.
No, he's cool. He built a flamethrower and gave it with every car. He's cool. He's a cool guy.
Wow, what a cool dude.
I don't see you building flamethrowers around here, George.
Well,
you build a flamethrower, I'll give you props.
Well, I got hairspray and a lighter set, so I guess I always had a flamethrower. Didn't cost me $250. Sure didn't.
Whatever.
No, this stuff doesn't make any sense to me at all, and I'm like confused. My brain just doesn't compute it.
What I'm seeing a lot of people say is that this is going to screw over a ton of people.
Yeah.
Because apparently when everyone decides to sell, it's going to plummet the price, and people who didn't sell are just going to lose all their money.
Yeah, they're going to be the ones holding the bag. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's their responsibility to check their stock, right? So, like, who cares?
Well, I think what's like really dangerous is that like they bought into the stock when it was clearly like GameStop was like licking its wounds after a pandemic, which doesn't help. After waiting so long for like the next generation of consoles to come out, which didn't help. Like, it was already sort of like kicked up and beat down on the floor, and then everyone came in, did this to artificially inflate their prices, and everyone is just thinking like yeah, there are like master manipulators here who are making a killing, but there's also like a whole bunch of people being like, oh, the stock's rising, like I should get in now while I still can, and then cash out later, who just think like, oh, well, there's a GameStop in every mall, like that's going to be like, that's a good investment, like that's not going away. Video games are great, everyone loves video games. And then they're going to be the ones that are screwed. Like, it's like, I just don't think like the people who came in a little too late are mean enough to like understand what's happening. And I say that as someone who barely understands what's happening. just so we're clear, I'm not like those idiots. I'm like, oh, you muffin. Like, there's a reason I don't do this. Like, the only gambling I do is like fantasy football.
Yeah.
Like daily fantasy stuff. And like, I make $9 a week doing that. Like, I make back my purchasing ticket and a little bit of money to buy an additional ticket the next week. Like, that's all I do.
If I may,
yeah.
I don't think the pandemic actually affected GameStop stock in any way.
Well, just in as much as like other stores were, like just like in-store shopping in general, I guess was
right.
What I
meant. And here's the reason I say that, because I'm looking at their stocks, and on June 7th, 2019, they were at $5 a share. And
I see what you're looking at too.
On January 24th, 2020, they were at 432. And August 7th, they were at 416. So it was moving around a little bit, but now it's at $147 a share. And it's like, Dude, imagine being like...
But also, this is like the confusion that I think a lot of people make. And like, I don't mean to make this political, but like when Trump was always arguing about the stock market being at record highs, like, yeah, that's great. The stock market was at a record high, but that's not the same thing as a strong economy. Like it's investment in like the potential of the business. Like it's not the same thing as the business doing well, you know?
Right. I mean, you're 100% right. GameStop's obviously been doing worse year over year, which is well, and we're getting off on a tangent, but like, how does this affect GameStop, the company? Does this like bankrupt them afterwards? Like, are the executives looking at this being like, we have so much money? like, I mean, and again, I don't know why I brought this topic up because I mean, it is relevant to the games, but like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I imagine the GameStop executives being pretty happy about this, right?
Well, sure. It's one thing to brag about being like, oh, we like, look what happened under our leadership. Our stock went up, what do you say, 700 something percent? 680%?
Yeah,
like that's something you can put on your resume for your next job, you know?
But this is like a famous case. Like, people were saying that Wall Street Bets is going to go down in the history books as this being like a moment in history where they artificially inflated stock 680%. I mean, and you would have to imagine, I've never heard of this ever happening before. So
I'm sure it has, though. Like, probably not to this degree, but like, again, I don't think any of us are like the qualified people to discuss this. Like, what we really need is Olivia Munn's character from The Newsroom to come on and explain this to us, but I don't think she's available since that show ended 5 years ago.
Dude, I opened a Roth IRA last week, and I'm like, I'm so confused. Like,
just
as far as stocks and trading and stuff goes.
You have like a cap on it each year. Just put as much as you can into it each year. That's all you got.
Right.
You're fine.
It's just like, this stuff is so over my head.
How old are you?
25.
Yeah, you're fine. I'm 30. I don't even have a Roth IRA. You're golden. don't worry about it.
But it's like when I look at it, I'm like, okay, what do I want to buy? And I'm like, so far I've done mutual funds, which is obviously like the safe thing to do. But it's like you can buy specific stocks and stuff as well. And it's like, how do people get the thought process of artificially raising a stock to the point that it's not actually worth that much, but you can maybe make money from it being worth that much? But then the investors and the people at the company are like happy about this potentially, but it's kind of like nothing has changed at all. And it's just people driving the price up on their own. It's crazy. I don't understand any of it.
Well, I mean, I assume this is going to be like another like Enron situation or like Bernie Madoff situation where it's just like, oh, everyone's buying all this stock. It's like, yeah, but what do you do? And they're like, well, everyone's buying the stock, and then everyone keeps buying the stock because everyone's buying the stock. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, but really though, what do you do? And then all of a sudden the Mets are paying Bobby Bonilla $1 million or $1.3 million every July 1st for 25 years. Like, it's just going to be a situation like that.
Right.
Again, someone's always left holding the bag.
So apparently there's short selling stuff. I'm reading about this right now. Apparently there's a short selling thing going on in this. I don't really understand it, but this is how it's defined. One way to make money on stocks for which the price is falling is called short selling. Short selling is a fairly simple concept. An investor borrows stock, sells the stock, and then buys the stock back to return it to the lender. Huh. Short sellers are betting the stock will drop in price. If the stock does drop after selling, the short seller buys it back at a lower price and returns it to the lender. The difference between the sell price and the buy price is the profit. What I'm understanding is that Wall Street Bets did this to screw over the short sellers of GameStop stock. And that was their whole goal. And I don't understand any of this.
We need to have some sort of financial advisor on this show to fully understand the concepts we're currently exploring.
I mean, I'll put a call out. Like, I do think this is really interesting. And it's
I do too.
We always talk about games. It's just like, oh, well, like, yeah, when the wind blows and goes to Tsushima, that's beautiful. But like, it'd be cool to understand, like, I don't know, slightly more practical business side effects of the actual industry. Because like the industry's up year over year, right? Like, isn't it like its most profitable year ever? And like, not quite.
But not physical game. But not physical. Different.
Yeah, sure. But just like the hobby, I guess. And so, like, I guess this is kind of related into my news, and we could just like talk about it super quickly. But the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, Series XS launch moved the most devices in an Xbox launch month. Gaming revenue hit $5 billion, the highest ever for a quarter. There was $2 billion in revenue from third-party game sales. Xbox Live hit 100 million monthly active users. and there are 18 million Xbox Game Pass subscribers. That was from Eddie McCooch, who is an associate editor at GameSpot. Followed him for a while. He was like the only East Coast GameSpot editor. He was in Boston, and I lived in Boston at the time, and then he moved to Australia, and I think he's... I don't know what he's up to now.
Like a game journalism job.
I don't know. I mean, don't you want to live in Australia just for a little bit?
There's a lot of things that can kill me in Australia.
The 18 million Game Pass users is interesting.
Yeah, and so like that, I ended up buying 2 years worth of Xbox Live, just like because they announced that the Xbox Live price was going away, and that the only thing left would be, or it would be $60 for 3 months. Yeah. So they were basically making it, or sorry, Xbox Live was going to, it is $59.99 for a year, and they were going to make it $59.99 for 6 months. And so I went out and I bought 2 years worth of Xbox Live because like I like Game Pass, but I also have so many subscriptions that I know I'm never going to use Game Pass the way it's intended to. Like if it was my only subscription, if I didn't have like Marvel Unlimited or DC or Netflix, like yeah, that'd be great. But I like other things, and so I'm like, I'm realistically never going to use this. And so I went on and did that, and then they reverse course saying like, okay, we won't do that. But they were basically trying to force everyone to buy Xbox Game Pass, which is admittedly a great deal, but it's also twice as much as a year of Xbox Live Gold is, which is what you need to, until that day, you needed it to run free-to-play games. They no longer require that. When I was in college, you needed Xbox Live Gold to run Netflix. And that's why I became such a PlayStation gamer, because I could run Netflix on my PlayStation 3 without a subscription to anything except for Netflix. Like it was awesome. So economy segue.
I think Game Pass is the best deal in all of gaming, and it's not even close.
Oh, it totally is. It absolutely is.
How long do you guys think until they raise the price? That's what I'm curious about.
1 year
for Game Pass.
Yeah.
What is it? It's $120 a year right now.
I believe so. Yes.
$10 a month. I could see it going up to 15 soon. Yeah.
I think they're gonna do the Netflix thing, which I just saw Netflix prices rose again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what hill do you guys think you have?
Well, it was awesome when like West Wing and The Office and Parks and Rec, like when every show in Battlestar Galactica, like it was in Doctor Who, like it was awesome when every show I have ever cared about in my entire life was on Netflix. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay $15 a month for that. But now like everything is just on its own thing. And Netflix, I'm like, all right, I might get a month of it when Stranger Things comes out, but also they're going to be like 30 next season, so I don't know how much I care.
I had Netflix, my own Netflix account for 10 years. I canceled it earlier in the year, and now I leech off my friends whenever there's something I do want to watch on Netflix. But I have no desire to get a Netflix subscription, man. Like, for the price it is, there's not a whole lot on this service that I want to watch anymore. I mean, they've lost almost everything except for their Netflix original series, which is good. Like, I can't wait for the next season of Lock and Key if it's not canceled. I haven't heard anything about it, but
it used to be just like a repository of everything I cared about, like TV wise. Like it was a no-brainer. But now, like honestly, I think they are getting better movies now that their TV licensing is like kind of gone away. Like I think they're getting more interesting movies at the very least. Like I watched a whole bunch of kung fu movies a few weeks ago. That
boy, you love to hear it.
That just like weren't on anything else. And then like a whole bunch of just like weird detective shows that, you know, like random stuff from Sweden or whatever. And like I started like, was it the new Lupin show, like that French heist thing, like that's good. But like I don't know, I am sort of like losing steam, and I'm like, like that money could be better spent maybe on Game Pass, you know. Like maybe that's like the trade I'll make.
Yeah, earlier in the year I went through all my subscriptions and canceled almost all of them, and I got to do that again because like slowly but surely I've been grabbing more and more again. Like I have like ESPN Plus and stuff like that for MMA, and like Crunchyroll and Funimation, and like I have pretty much almost every subscription I can possibly get at this point.
Doesn't Sony own Crunchyroll and Funimation now?
Yeah, well they just bought the purchase. So you still have to have two separate subscriptions. I imagine they're gonna collapse them into one service eventually. Or maybe they won't.
Collapse into one service, or roll that into PlayStation Plus. Like if you start offering more value, like granted that's not, you know, a service for everyone, but like if I don't know, if Xbox Live and Game Pass are gonna be rolled into one, you know, like why not? Like it's like fight for me, you know.
First, PlayStation Plus and PlayStation now go into one service. It's crazy that they're not.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine the PlayStation Now numbers are that good. I don't know anybody that uses it.
I use it. I love it.
Really?
I think it's awesome. That's how I played Infamous 2, like on my
I don't
first
know one
shows
person
last
who
summer.
George is the only person I know that uses PlayStation Now.
So it's really good. I mean, like it has like every PlayStation 3 first party game, and a bunch of like random awesome third parties that are actually kind of expensive.
Is Final Fantasy 13 on there? You know?
I don't know. I've honestly just been using it to play Infamous 2.
That's fair. Infamous 2 is a great game.
It is. All right.
All right. Oh, do we have anything in closing that we want to talk about?
No.
Obviously not. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been episode 42 of Frameskip. As always, remember you can find us on Twitter at FrameSkipPod. You can find me at Seth S. Taylor, Elijah at Loco Lizardman, Austin as at Austin J. Eller, George is at GB Loftus. Write in your questions for the show at bit.ly/FrameSkipQ. Email us at frameskippodcast@gmail.com. And leave us a good review on your podcatcher of choice if it allows that. Or, if you want to get $5, just go on iTunes and leave a review and message me and tell me you did it, because I'll do that.
Also, if you want Seth and I to have a spin-off Gun Plus show, just let us know.
Yep, let us know about that, because I will 100% be down for that. Yeah. If you will, if I may say, I will be down with the sickness.
Oh,
wow.
nice.
Seems as good a note as any to end it. Yeah.
Until next time. Later.
Goodbye.
Nerd. See you later, nerds.